Alright, Facebook Live, welcome back to another lifting clinic with myself, Andy Sykes, strength and conditioning specialist here at Wichita State. Today we are covering the warm-ups that you should consider when preparing to Olympic lift. Now, there are a million different exercises that you could do, and this is going to be unique to you depending on where your strengths and weaknesses lie. If you have tightness in your lats, if you have tightness in your shoulders, it's really unique to, and how you prepare for that, those movements is going to depend on that. I'm going to cover today some of the more regularly used exercises to prepare, but this might not fit for you. There is no perfect warm-up. There is no, you should do exactly this. Just a guideline to get you in this position to be prepared to lift and be safe, have those muscles engaged so that we don't have any injuries created. And so what we want to do as we prepare for this is really try to feel how the muscles, how our joints are feeling that day. Some days we have good days, some days we have bad days, and things are tight. Things that if you have a stressful week, things can get a little tighter. When we're trying to press overhead, our shoulders our lats don't want to give in, our triceps are tight, and things can be a little bit more difficult to get in position. So just being aware of your body, and that can be the difference between a good athlete or someone that works out every day and a great athlete, and someone that really knows. They're listening to their body, they're really in tune with those proprioceptors within the muscle fibers, within the joints, and listening to the body. So with the Olympic lifts, the clean, the jerk, the snatch, it's a lot of overhead movement, right? We're trying to get the body over into this position a lot of the time, either here, and so we're going to prepare the body to do that. So a lot of people ask me, how many reps, how many sets should I be doing on these warm-ups? And again, this is going to be unique to you. Okay, you don't want to fatigue yourself, because then your workout, when you go into your active sets, is going to be bad. You don't want to have under prep, you don't want to have too little. So try 1, 2, 3 sets of 10 on each of these exercises. But if you're a beginner, that might be too much. That might be a point where it's a workout to do that instead of a warm-up. So everything with a grain of salt. There is some gray area here. Do what feels right. If you feel like you're active at this point, that you're ready to move on to the next exercise, there's no need to add the extra set, okay? So you're just preparing yourself for this. So how do I start this? Well, we'll start with the clean, as that's the one we covered. As you look at previous videos, you can really see the cues that I went through when I demoed with Austin. Today I'm solo, I'm going to demo these warm-ups. And how do we get this clean position to where we're taking that bar from either full clean here or a hang clean here into that front rack with the elbows facing forward? Well, I mentioned that thoracic extension. I like to do an exercise called wall angels, where I get right next to a wall. Sometimes these are called wall slides. I get my arms, so my hips are back onto the wall, my shoulder blades are back on the wall, my elbows are back, my wrists are back, and then I slide up to that position all the way up, and then all the way down. We're trying to keep those contact points on the wall. Now, if you're tight, this may be difficult. You may find that you're here and you can't get those arms back. It comes with time. Not too fatiguing. It doesn't take a lot of strength to do this. It takes mobility. So just doing a few more repetitions over and over, get on that movement to get more fluid and myelinating that motor pathway. So after that, I like to do stir the pots, engage that core, because when we are lifting overhead, when we are lifting a lot of weight, we want that core to be straight so we don't have any flexion or forward flexion in that spine and potentially have a low back injury. So I go to the stir the pot movement for this as a warm-up. So we're getting a Swiss ball or stability ball, and we're in a plank position on top. I've actually showed this before for my squat warm-ups. It's one of my favorites, and we're doing clockwise motions, trying to keep a nice plank position. You see my back's nice and straight, nice and tight, and go the opposite direction, trying to create some instability so that my body has to be stable and engage that core. If you want to advance that, you just lift the leg, same thing, each direction, get it each side, engaging that core. Great warm-up to ensure that your core stays tight and you're not getting too much flexion happening. Next, what we have is a lot of internal rotation with the clean and with the snatch. We're trying to get the bar as close to our body as we lift up that bar. This is internal rotation. Okay, so we're internally rotating this humerus, and how do we get the body prepared to do that? Well, I like a banded internal external rotation movement. So just get a band, pin that somewhere. I've got these pegs here. Bring my shoulder up, stabilizing with the posterior delts, traps, and then externally rotating up, trying to get my elbow not to move at all. Trying to pin that elbow in the right position, and then contracting, and then allow the internal rotation to happen as well. It's not all about the upward movement, but it's also about how much internal rotation I get. Can I get down lower, and then back up again? Make sure you get both sides with that. Pin it back, isometric in the rotator cuff, and then pull back. You may feel this. If you tight anterior delt, often feels this one as you're lifting up and trying to isolate. Don't let that elbow move. Just rotate about that point in that rotation. So, another one to think about. After that, I want to get my position. My shoulders should be good here. My thoracic extension's good. So let's move down the body. What about a squat hold? I'll grab a plate for this, a 35-pound plate. Again, depends on how tight you are, how big you are. You could need a little lighter, you might need a little heavier. We're going to get basically into a goblet squat, so feet about hip width apart, toes a little wider. Sit down into that squat position, elbows inside the knees, and pushing out. This weight's keeping me balanced. I'm able to get down, and my inner thighs here are getting stretched. My hips are opening up, becoming more mobile, and we're in this nice squat position. I'll turn 90 degrees so you can just see that in the other direction. We're trying to have a nice neutral torso the whole way through straight. We're not curving. This isn't where we are. We're engaging, making sure that our groin is feeling this, it's inner thigh, and that's what's keeping our back nice and straight, being and contracting through that. What then I like to do is move my forearms onto the knees, and then lean forward onto one of my toes and onto the ankles and stretch and increase mobility through the ankles. This is where we get a lot of our issues coming into the knee, into the hip, and even overhead as we press. If we're not mobile enough in the ankles, it doesn't allow our shin to advance forward. It's too tight. And if the shin can't advance forward, that means our torso can't be as vertical. The torso has to lean forward and compensate for the shin not being able to do that. Now, if the torso leans forward, pressing overhead becomes exponentially harder, and you're unable to push up over. So it's crazy to think that link all the way down in our ankles is connected to what we can push over our head. So it's all connected, and we want to get everything warmed up and prepared for this. Now, if you take it from the NSCA, their warm-up protocol is called the RAMP protocol. You raise, activate, mobilize, and potentiate. So raising our heart rate. You can probably tell my heart rate's up a little bit. My breathing got a little bit harder as I'm doing these exercises. We're not even into cleaning yet. So it doesn't have to be a run on the treadmill. I do jumping jacks, I do jump rope. Just by going through the motions, you're going to start to increase the demand on the body and increase the heart rate. So we've got that raise, our body temperature's up. I'm starting to get a little sweaty. I'm going to take a drink. Then we go into mobilize, or activate and mobilize. So we activated there with our internal external rotations. We're activating the muscles that are going to be used. We're mobilizing. We get down into that squat. Okay, we're getting the hips able to move correctly. We're getting the ankles being able to move correctly. And then potentiate, that's what we're going to go into next. And that's building this motor pathway so that we can increase weight progressively. So every time we do a movement, we're sending this nerve impulse from our brain down our spinal cords to our motor units to create this contraction. Now, a lot of people I've heard of muscle memory. Okay, now this is kind of a gray area. Some people say there is muscle memory, some people say there isn't. Well, a muscle never remembers anything, but what it does do is have a nerve impulse, okay? And that nerve has a myelin sheath. Now, every time you send an electrical signal through that, you strengthen its pathway. And so that pathway becomes easier for you to move. And they say it takes roughly 10,000 repetitions to affect the movement. So this pathway from brain all the way to muscle to get this movement to happen, you're strengthening this myelination, this myelin sheath around that electrical cable, that neuron, that nerve. Okay, I compare it to electrical cable. We have this rubber or plastic insulation around a cable so that when we touch it, we don't get electric shock. Our body does a similar thing with a fatty substance known as myelination or myelin sheath. So as we're going through this and as we potentiate, when you go through this motion, you're going to see that we progressively add movements or parts. We segment the movement and we learn each part progressively. And then we put them all together and we're getting this nice movement carved out in our brain and into our muscles. Okay, the last exercise actually in the warm-up would be an inchworm. We're going to get a nice stretch in those hamstrings. Stretch down here, moving out, getting the core engaged, getting my shoulders to bear weight, retraction into the scapula, getting a nice push up and press away, anterior delts working, and getting the inchworm done. Now you can do again as many as you like with that until you feel ready, you feel warm, and then we're going to go on to the barbell. Now empty barbell is great. If you're more advanced, you can put a little weight on there, 10 pounds or so. But today I'm going just empty barbell. I'm not strong, so we're going to show how we can do this. For the clean, we've got to get this weight from either full clean position or hand clean position to the front rack. So let's see if we can hit that front rack position. Again, we use hip grip, so we're grabbing that bar, wrapping those fingers around the thumb, and basically doing a muscle clean here into that front rack position. Now you want to make sure that you can get your elbows up, and that bar comes into the clavicles, into the throat area, and looks like I can achieve this. Now if you're here, or you're here, okay, you're not getting those elbows forward, and the weight isn't off of your arms and onto your torso, then you need to work probably doing some static stretching, and work a little bit more on your mobility in that upper thoracic area, into the shoulders. Potentially triceps and lats. You can foam roll. There's a number of different things that I won't cover today, maybe in a future video, that you can do to increase the length and ability to move through that path. So, front rack position is secure, so I can do that. Excellent. Get back there. Okay. Similar to what I showed before. Alright, let's go into a squat. Can I maintain that position? Excellent. Looks like I can here. Okay, so then we're just holding this, making sure my hips are okay, my ankles are okay, feeling for activation, any tightness, any tension that I can address if I do feel it, and then stand it back up. Now from here I can go into a sock press. Now I'll preface this, I am not very good at the sock press, and if you are like me and not good at the sock press, I'll show you an alternative. We'll try it. Now sock press is overhead press from that squat position. Wasn't too bad, but if you're like me and you struggle with that, another alternative is to do a goblet press. So same front squat position, and we're pressing overhead from a goblet press. So getting that motion. So I've highlighted something that I need to work on. It's probably things that you're going to find as you do these that you need to work on. Again, it is unique to your own abilities. And so just trying to become in tune with your own body, find out where your strengths and weaknesses lie. Next, let's get the lower body stretched out again, RDL. So back to that hook grip in the clean position, wrists slightly wider than the shoulder apart, jump stance. RDL, meaning Romanian deadlift. That's a straighter leg position. Knees have a slight bend to them. They're not locked out, but they don't change angle. See, I'll give you a side view here. I have a slight bend in my knees, and then the bar slides down my body. Back stays engaged until my hamstrings kind of hit their limit on tension. They can't go any further. And I'm getting a stretch. You're going to feel this through the hamstrings, slightly into the low back as you get low. Lats are engaged, the bar is staying really close to our body. Then what I'm going to do is come to a tall muscle clean. That means no legs are involved. We're going to stand up nice and tall. and go through those motions, that potentiation as we learn this skill. Our hook grip stays on the bar and we pull up, nice high pull and turn over into that position. So we're just grooving out that movement path in the body. And again, how many to do? There's no correct answer here. When do you feel comfortable? If it's tight, get some more in. If it isn't, you can move on. After you do that, we'll go into a muscle clean. So all that is from the tool muscle clean is you're adding that start position about shin height. So imagine you've had plates on here, roughly 18 inches or so off the ground, about shin height, and we're going through those motions, all the techniques that we talked about in the previous videos with foot position, engagement of the muscles, having enough pressure on the toes, starting shoulder advance of the bar, all of those things. Elbow staying high, staying over the bar as much as possible, and we're just progressing through this path. And then I feel ready to add some weight. And instead of going slow, we'll increase it into a real clean. So, those are the things I recommend to get you ready to then add weight and enter the active sets. So, all the things, that's some maybe a workout of its own, others that's the warm up, and now we'll hit the hang cleans. Now we'll go into the active sets and get some training done.